tricky.
It's tricky to rock her
tricky.
around. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to What's Offensive Weekly with your host, Scott Roark, and myself, Jeff Henson.
Wow. You're like a professional announcer.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Tell him what he's won, Johnny. We have a beautiful prize package for you this evening.
Do you remember on Wheel of Fortune? I remember watching Wheel of Fortune as a kid, where at the very end of the show there was this spinning display.
Yeah, that's how it used to be.
Yeah,
and
for
you just
$200,
go,
I'll take
that
skis.
dumb piece of shit, statue there or whatever. People only watch it back in the day for Vanna White. I mean, you want to see a nip slip or something? Sure, absolutely.
Do you remember when Chuck Woolery was the original host before Pat Sajak
of Wheel of Fortune?
Yes. Yeah, before Love Connection.
Get out of here.
No.
2 and 2? Be back in 2 and 2?
Be back in 2
guy?
and 2. That's guy. Yep.
Do you know Chuck Woolery is a big conservative?
Big conservative.
Yeah. Save us, Chuck Woolery. That's his page on Facebook. It's awesome.
Second only to James Woods.
Yes, James Woods. Yes, another controversial guy.
Well, welcome back, everybody. So it's another episode of What's Offensive Weekly. And so this past week, we posted something on Facebook to ask people some different topics that they thought we should talk about this week, as if Jeff and I couldn't come up with some on our own. But
we're not the brightest.
Right. But we want your input. So first off, thank you guys for following us on Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the sign is at What's Off Weekly. And there's all kind of offensive stuff that we put on there. You can follow us on Facebook. Anyway, so this week, what we're going to do is 3 topics that we're going to try to cover next over this next period is going to be, someone asked the question, are embryos human? We're also going to talk about why does it seem that there are more publicity around animal abuse than child abuse? And also then we're going to talk about one of Jeff's favorite people in the whole world, Stan Lee.
The most important man to ever live.
Yeah. And what did he do? Because a very perceptive listener heard us earlier, me talk about what Stan Lee did, and we never even went into it.
I love that because it shows people are paying attention. At least one guy.
At least one guy. Thank you, Ron, for listening in. So, Jeff, of these 3, which one do you want to start off with? Let's start off. You want to do something light?
That's fine.
Let's start off with if embryos are actually human.
Well, that's a really light topic. Something you want to bring up with Grandma at the dinner table at Thanksgiving. That'd be great. Yeah.
So I guess we should probably give a little context here as to what is actually, I think, bringing this up. Is that here in Cleveland, the Cleveland Clinic had an issue. They had basically a lab somewhere where they had, I don't know the exact numbers. I probably should have done a little more research there, but they had, I think, thousands of these embryos, and they're all destroyed. Basically, I don't know if it got too warm or something happened, but there were a whole bunch of things that happened that alarms went off or alarms weren't set. And so thousands of these embryos were ultimately destroyed. And so I know right now the Cleveland Clinic, the people whose embryos those belong to, they've already lined up. Like you're gonna pay so
Absolutely.
big, you know. And so the question I think that this person is asking, I think this was Brian that asked this question, was, are embryos human? So
well, let me start out with, I want to get this in full context here because I didn't hear much about this one. So what happens when like exactly what caused these embryos? These people had them in storage for future impregnation, or what's the deal? You know what I mean? Like say I'm there with my wife and we fertilize this egg and then we get it frozen. Is that exactly it, or
I
what's the deal?
believe so. So maybe we should just go ahead and take a look at here. So let me do.
Look, our Scott's doing a quick
embryo disaster.
Disaster. Scott's doing a quick research. We got some research money, some grant money to fund our What's Offensive Weekly research department, and we're doing this right now.
So this is what we have. This is from WKYC Channel 3 here in the Greater Cleveland area, and it's titled "Disaster at University Hospital's Fertility Clinic May Have Damaged More Than 2,000 Embryos and Eggs. A liquid nitrogen tank containing more than 2,000 eggs and embryos began to thaw," which just sounds horrible. University Hospitals is responsible for the births of thousands of babies. The technology helps to create families that previously had little hope, but last weekend a tragic disaster happened. Let me just kind of roll through here and see what we can see.
So I mean, like, how long are these? Have these things been in there? Do they? I mean, is this like Is this like for women who can't carry a baby, but then they fertilize the egg, and then this embryo would get implanted in another woman? Or I mean,
Right.
what exactly is all this stuff?
Good question. I'm reading here. It said, the specimens were not in dated order. They were mixed. Each vial contained 2 or 3 eggs, or could have several 2 or 3 eggs from each patient. This means one patient could have several vials in her name. overnighted letters to blah, blah, blah. Okay, here you go. Some of the eggs and embryos that were stored date back decades, and people move. Their addresses change, but we've made our best attempts to track them down. So some of them, like the parents, apparently are not even around.
Yeah, if they're not even taken care of, it's like
so now it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. We throw the babies out. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's these people are going to be lining up for a lawsuit, and they don't.
The average cost of fertility treatment can be around $10,000.
Uh-huh. I have a buddy at work who had to go through that, and it was I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to have it done. Intravenous, blah blah blah.
Yeah, whatever
blah,
that fancy word.
Whatever
is.
that thing is. Yeah, it's funny because, well, not funny, but this guy, they were having problems having kids.
Yeah.
And so they were looking at adopting. Okay. So there's this whole society, whatever you want to call it, program
Sure.
that you can go through where they hook up couples with pregnant women who don't want the baby.
Sure.
Okay. So they hooked up with this one girl in Florida. Okay. So they hooked up with this, and she was due.
I contacted her.
Yeah. I don't mean threesome, and pregnant threesome or whatever. That's
because
a
I'm
very
sure,
specific porn.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens too.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, Pornhub, here we come.
Yeah.
But that's a porn website, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Okay.
But you're a Christian, wholesome man, so I didn't know, and who likes Corey Haim posters. But so he hooked up. They quote unquote hooked up with this girl who was down there in Florida, and what the scenario is they pay for everything.
Yep.
Okay. All of her rent, her food, her everything that's going on with this whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay. Then this is the fucked up part, is that right at the very end, she just goes, nope, I want the baby. And so then they're out all that money, they're out everything, and she just gets that free ride. And I think that's what a lot of, I could envision a lot of people hooking up with this and saying, hey, look, this is an easy free ride, and we wonder why there's this problem with adoption in this country, where people have to go to China or Russia or whatever to get babies, that's great and everything, but I mean, I have no problem with that, but it's very expensive, and we have tons of unwanted babies here and abortions that happen here. When I just think that's another viable option that we could, because I thought I presented all kinds of scenarios to this guy. I'm like, well, why couldn't you just go to say an abortion clinic and see the girls walking in and say, hey, come here. I'll tell you what, I'll take your baby and blah, 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 blah. That whole scenario.
Yeah.
Nope, that's illegal. You can't do that. You can't approach a woman to do that at a clinic like that. You can't do that. So
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's, I mean, I'm sure you could otherwise, whatever, but I think it's something with being at the clinic where you can't, you can't make that type of transaction. It's almost like selling a baby. You have to go through this.
I fully can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what are we talking about here? Come on.
So the question then ultimately is: Are they human? Are they human? And I personally think, and I come at this from there's a biblical perspective that informs my views. it comes down to this. Like I was thinking about just this morning, that these folks are going to go ahead and they're going to line up and they're going to sue. They're going to sue. And I'm thinking to myself, there has to be a whole group of people right now. There has to be a whole group of people that are very interested in this case. Let me take you back in time. Do you remember this guy? I think his name was Scott Peterson. And Scott Peterson murdered his wife, his pregnant wife, and basically just dumped her body out in the bay out there in California somewhere. And the moment they came up and they go, all right, we're going to go ahead and try him for murder for 2. There were people, definitely pro-choice, who jumped up and they could see the writing on the wall. They go, whoa.
Yeah.
If we allow them to say that he murdered 2, because we've been screaming the whole time that it's not a person.
Right.
It needs to be one murder.
That's acknowledging that it's a human. Yes.
With this issue here, if we can come in and these are eggs, these have been fertilized. Am I okay? I presume that
An embryo would be a fertilized.
There we go.
Yes.
All right. So if we can come in and they can sue them for taking life, there's going to be a group of people that are really going to be in on this one. I think what will ultimately happen is they're going to be just sued because $10,000, what you offered me or what you promised me, you dropped the ball on.
They might get their money back.
They'll get their money back and maybe some punitive damages.
Right.
But I don't think.
Will they get the embryos back?
No.
Oh, man.
Those are gone. Do I think that they are human? Yeah. Let me be really clear about that. It's not a baby.
What is it?
But I guess I can't say what it is. I can say that I think that it's human life. It's most certainly human potential. That's why I think that.
Well, sperm and an egg are human potential.
Yes, but not in and of themselves.
Sure.
Once combined, that is life. That is life. Once those two things are combined. And so because we combine them and then basically pause that by deep freezing them, I think that it's pausing life. Now, there's another part of me that's like, man, is this something that God would really want us doing? Like is he in heaven going, you're doing what? Like, I don't know what God's really thinking of that. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not here to question people's motives. I mean, I think their motives are probably absolutely pure, that they really want to have children, and children can be a blessing sometimes.
Sure.
So I can understand them wanting to do that. And if they can use science to help them do that, great. I'm sure there are people walking around the world right now that started in this fashion, that are perfectly healthy, that are contributing members of society. So I can't, and I won't say this is wrong or this is.
Well, no, I don't think that that's wrong in and of itself. I mean, man perverts things to the nth degree. Whereas, we have, say, like for instance, like a plastic surgery, for instance, or something, and somebody has a big deformed mole on their face or something, and you can have it removed and make you look normal. Well, that's great, and that's to a degree. I mean, you're looking like Eric Stoltz in Mask or something, but you got something like that versus then people use it to start to look like Michael Jackson or whatever, or these people who have all these surgeries that look like a Ken doll or Barbie doll and all this shit.
Or a lion.
A lion. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. The lion or the lizard guy or all this stuff, and people just go on and on. I mean, like say breast implants. I mean, it's. I mean, I feel for a woman who doesn't feel like a woman with a super totally flat chest, you know what I mean? And maybe give them something and whatever. But then you got strippers that go to the nth degree that have like triple Z breasts or whatever, and it looks it's ridiculous. And then it's always taking it that step further where it wasn't necessarily meant to be.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Mankind does that. Whatever good thing is, like, oh, how can I do this for porn?
Right.
Whatever it is.
Absolutely. Look at the internet. Yeah. I mean, hey, I always say the internet is the greatest invention of mankind. It's the worst invention of mankind because, it connects everybody in the world. Yeah. And that's on the same time and the same place. I mean, I could talk to somebody in, say, China right now and ask them what's going on and all that stuff. I mean, it's mind blowing to think about. Like when I ask my parents sometimes, what do you think about all this? She and my mom will be just like this. It just all blows my mind. It would really blow my grandmother's mind. She was all, and she would talk about that and everything. And that's crazy to me. And then all of a sudden, then people use it for, oh, well, shit, I can talk to somebody in China. That means I can, do sex trade in China or whatever,
Yeah. And it goes
and
evil.
then it just snowballs. I mean, the initial point was great, but like all things, it, gets perverted.
Yeah. So I guess what I'd say is, I don't know that I would call it quote unquote human, because it hasn't developed. I don't know. I guess for me, I would say I think that God would view it as life.
I would view it as human. Personally, myself. I mean, I
guess.
think.
I'm sorry. Let me clarify.
You're doing very well with the not interrupting thing. I wanted to point out. By the way, I notice a discernible difference. Seriously,
thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you, because when I listen to the podcast, I hear how much I do it. And
it's awesome.
And
it's great.
Pisses me off.
Okay.
I guess the reason I wanted to interrupt was I felt like the way I said human, when I'm saying human, I'm almost meaning baby, like arms and legs. And at that juncture where all we have is an embryo, it's not quite to that level. But I'm not saying it's not life and it doesn't have value. I'm absolutely saying that.
I gotcha. Okay.
Which is why I carry my view that I do about abortion, that the moment the baby is conceived, I don't care how far along it is, I think that it's life and that we need to do whatever we can to sustain it.
And real quick, I just want to interject this, is people are, what about rape and incest? And okay, fine. And then you say, well, what about let's just tackle this. Rape and incest is, according to Planned Parenthood, which is supposedly inflated numbers, I would have to imagine, it's 2%. Of abortions are rape and incest. Yeah. Well, let's look at the 98% that are not. I knew girls who've had multiple abortions.
Yeah,
and so it just because of convenience, just because, well, I just didn't want it or whatever, and blah blah blah, and it just wasn't the right time and everything. And again, I understand, and I'm not judging those people or whatever. Well, I am, but nonetheless, still, again, there's people out there who want these babies.
Correct.
And it's disheartening because they can't. It's hard for them to. It would be hard for them to hook up with a couple who needs to, is looking for that.
Yeah.
So, but embryos are, to me, embryos are human because there's throughout time, if you notice, like say the Jews. Okay, everybody says, "Well, how did that happen? How are they able to?" How was Hitler able to convince people, all the Nazis, to kill all these people?
Yeah.
Well, he did that by dehumanizing them. Yeah. And same with slaves.
Yeah.
When people constantly say, well, the slaves came over, or how can you look at that and treat them like that and all this stuff? You got to understand that when they came over here, people came over here and we demolished the Indians, whatever. That's terrible. They looked at them as subhuman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're not saying that sarcastically.
No, not at all. Because I'm a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm tons. I'm a little bit Native American.
Oh, like Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Pocahontas.
Yeah.
Raging Bull or Chief Bigum Penis. That's what it was. Yes. And so that's made them feel better about taking their land. Well, that when there was generations of people who only saw white people in this country.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all of a sudden they bring over these black people who they've never seen to, obviously look human, but they have darker skin. They have different hair. They can't speak English. They are very jungle-like because they brought them from the jungle, and they're not civilized, is what I'm saying. And so then you got. That's how they are made to feel better about making them go out and work and everything. They're saying, well, they're not human. They're not actual people. And same with the Jews. Hitler would say Jews were subhuman. They're not actual people. They have different DNA. And he would say all this stuff and everything. And to me, this is the modern genocide of, you say they're not human. It's a clump of cells. It's a fetus. They love saying fetus and clump of cells. Well, when you say baby, that makes it a whole different story. And I can understand the perspective of somebody saying that about, like, say, embryos like that. It does look like a clump of cells, but abortion wise, it's crazy when you look at how developed a baby can be. And they suck the brain out, I mean, that's what they do. They suck the brain out. And I know people don't want to hear that. And, oh, no, they don't. Yes, they do. And that's how they kill it. So, and it's also, with technology, it's becoming more and more sketchy about when you can have an abortion, because people always say, well, I think it should be able to,
is it viable,
viable on its own and everything. Well, it's more and more, it's able to,
it's getting earlier and earlier.
Yes. Right. So
this is and we didn't even intend to talk about abortion, but it's certainly,
it's kind of synonymous with it.
Yeah, it's certainly a topic that is touchy. I'm a live and let live kind of guy. I am all for people having liberties and rights. I'm not trying to restrict. I don't want anybody restricting mine. I don't want to restrict anyone else's. But when it comes to this issue, and I think I've maybe even talked to you about this before, is that the argument is, I'm for a woman's right to choose. That's the quote. I'm for a woman's right to choose, and I am too. I want a woman to be able to choose to do anything, except that. If you want to have unprotected sex with as many people as you want, okay, it's not what I would do, but you have that right.
Sure.
The only thing I'd say is this one is not a choice. I would want to, just as I would want somebody to take that choice from me. If
It involves another person. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's my perspective.
I don't care. You should be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, as long as it doesn't harm other people. That's kind of my mantra there. And when it's not your body, as soon as when you have that baby growing inside of you, it's not just you.
It's in there. It's in you.
It's in you, but
it's not.
It is not. That's not all of your body. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I get the whole thing of women should be able to choose. And ideally, in an absolute ideal world, people should be allowed to have an abortion, but nobody would.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
In an ideal world, like, you should be able to freely do whatever you want, but people would realize that, hey, this is actually a baby or a child or whatever. Yeah. And I understand also this perspective of, I mean, rape and incest is hard. I have thoughts on that, but that's iffy. But and then there's also the thing of, well, what if the mother's going to die as well? And again, those instances are, I'm not going to judge people about any of that stuff. So I can't say that. I mean, would like the rape thing? Yeah. I don't know. To me, I want to say, well, you should just be able to have that kid and give it up and blah, blah, blah. But in the other respect, if you kind of hook up with one of these families and you're like, well, I got raped and I'm going to have this baby and everything, that baby's always out there. That's going to haunt that girl for the rest of her life. Having an abortion might too, but it's also knowing that thing is out there, that person is out there. And that's got to be hard. I mean, thinking that's that moment in time has that repercussion. It's not just, well, he hit me once or something like that, or we've gotten a fight and beat up or whatever. I mean, that thing lives on now forever, and it's always a reminder of that. Especially, could you imagine, a woman is raped, has the baby, wants to do the right thing, and then that baby looks exactly like the rapist. I mean, could you imagine every time she looks at that kid, she's going to realize that, oh my God, that's that guy.
My thought goes to, it's very easy, I think, for us to look on the front side of abortion and think of the baby and things like that. I think that we don't spend nearly enough time talking about afterwards. And I don't think that we have spent time investigating, how are you feeling emotionally in the days, months, and years after you've had that abortion? What kind of guilt are you dealing with?
Real quick, let me interject. That's the problem, is that I think that to me, there's a huge difference between women who are well informed, know what they're doing, and choose to do that, or there's other women who just go, it's just a clump of cells. And that's what bothers me about the verbiage with all of this stuff, because people get desensitized to it and they go, women who aren't educated and informed about it, they just go, it's just a clump of cells, it's not really a baby.
Yeah.
And then how many, you've heard those stories about when the woman goes to get an abortion and she hears the heartbeat and she
changes,
was like, holy shit, that's actually a person.
Yeah.
So sorry. I interrupted you.
No, I think that as with many things in this world and many things in our lives, if we get caught in a certain moment, we can make decisions that ultimately we really, really regret. And sometimes we can't see beyond that moment. So a young girl maybe she is raped. A young girl there's a matter of incest, or she just finds out that she is pregnant with her boyfriend's baby and she's 16 years old. And they cannot look beyond that. And then they go ahead and they make this decision, which is a permanent decision. And I understand that maybe time is of the essence, like you need to make a decision. But I wish that there was this, and it doesn't exist, but I wish there was this ability where the 30-year-old of that same person could say, listen, here's what you're going to face. This is what you're going to be dealing with now from now on if you make this decision. But we don't have that. You're kind of stuck in that moment. For me, and I never want to come off as being insensitive.
I do.
But for a woman who's been raped or has been a victim of incest, the issue with rape is someone has done something to you and violated you without your consent.
Mm-hmm.
And so now your choice to resolve this is to kill this innocent child who had nothing to do with it. It's almost the exact same thing, that somebody didn't take your feelings in consideration and just acted upon you. You're doing the same thing. And again, I'm not trying to sound insensitive. This is just,
I see what you're saying.
For me, as a middle-aged white guy, this is
what
where
does race have to do with it?
Well, for me, it doesn't have anything to do with
exactly.
it. Or gender doesn't have anything to do with it. But for some people, they don't understand that. For them, and we can get into this, for some people, you have to have lived through something to be allowed to speak about it. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that perspective, but I still reject it. So for me, like, there's been this thought in my mind in the past that, you know what? Tell you what, what we're going to do is we're going to outlaw abortion. But if you have been the victim of rape or of incest, we will go ahead and allow that. But you must press charges.
Yeah.
You must press charges, because I'm not going to, because all of a sudden, if 2% of the abortions are because of rape or incest, the moment we pass a law like this, that number would jump up to 30, 40, 50%.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, is that people, then they jump on that bandwagon. They go, well, I was raped, instead of, so just because they want to get an abortion. So that becomes a problem.
And see, what bothers me about that, I think it would probably get missed, is that people are not upset because of the lies. Mm-hmm. They're upset because, I don't know. See, there's a part of me that think, you know what? You guys suck. The 48% of you that are lying, just so you can do this, you demean me.
Absolutely.
The one who's truly suffered from this. Now everybody's doing it. And we've talked about this before on this very podcast, about the more you start screaming racism or sexism or whatever, when real racism or sexism occurs, it means nothing.
It's the oldest tale in the book of crying wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah, when it finally does happen,
you
get eaten.
Amen. Wow.
Well, holy cow, we went there and we talked about that.
How much, what time we got?
Well, we have 6 minutes left of this episode.
Man. Okay, well, this is good. Okay, now let me parlay this into something, because I wanted to, I said I wanted to tell you about a surprise thing, and this can be parlayed into this. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Because we've not talked about this.
We have not talked about this at all.
This is legitimately the first time I'm hearing him say this.
Yes. So you
don't know the terror.
You just said that something to the effect of, I love your face. This is awesome.
What is it going to be?
Something to the effect of, people doing something to you without your consent, and that's wrong. Yeah. Now, would you say that touching another person without their consent, a stranger, would be wrong?
My first question would be, it would depend upon the type of touching.
Okay.
And I think that it can also be a personal thing.
What do you mean a personal thing?
A personal perspective.
Okay, you're not greeting this person. They're just they're just walking by, and you just kind of say you grab their arm. Say let's say you as a middle-aged white guy.
Yep.
You see, say you saw an attractive woman walking down the street. Okay.
Yeah.
20-year-old, say, attractive woman.
Yeah.
Okay. And you excitedly grabbed her arm.
For any reason, or
just because you were just so excited to see her, you're like, hi.
No, that's
Is that wrong?
That's really
Okay. All right. Now,
but again, before you go on,
yes.
Again, I think that there is context to take into consideration.
You're just covering your eyes.
I am
right here.
because it's not black and white. All right, go ahead.
All right, go ahead. All right. Now, I like a week ago, a friend of mine on Facebook wrote this. Okay.
All right.
That they were at the Justin Timberlake concert.
Yep.
Okay. And they were on stage while JT walked back and forth. I grabbed his pants twice.
Mm-hmm.
Also got yelled at by a security guard twice for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know what I'm speaking of?
I do.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
What are we talking about?
You're talking about my wife.
Yes. Now, I want you to envision this. Okay. Yeah. I want you to envision that, say, I went to a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was in the front row and I was like, oh my God, I was able to touch her and grab her ankle.
Yeah. It's context.
Is that creepy?
No, but it could be. It could turn creepy. It's not creepy. But
I don't think it's creepy. I'm just yanking your chain with this and everything. Now I understand. You're right. The context and everything. Yeah. It's good that you said it because you really saved your ass with that.
Oh yeah.
But my point of bringing this up is simply I get it. It's all in fun and everything. It's awesome. It's cool. But again, if I had a, say like, I think Katy Perry is very attractive. Yeah. Now I went to her, well, not since she cut her hair and dyed it blonde. She looks terrible, but older Katy Perry. I'm an older gentleman.
Yeah.
She's a younger woman. And I post that I'm trying to touch her on stage and everything. That comes across as very creepy.
Context is everything.
Right. Especially like a few years ago with the whole Twilight scenario, fandom going on and everything.
Yeah.
All these middle-aged house moms were all about Twilight and this whole Team romantic Edward scenario, Team Edwards, Team Douchebag, whoever these guys are and everything. And these guys are all like, 20 years old and everything. And they're going to these, say, like movie premieres and everything and like, oh my God, I saw Edward and making these signs and shit, Now imagine you and I, imagine this was 10 years ago, whatever, and you and I are going to the Mary-Kate and Ashley new Mary-Kate and Ashley Go to Paris movie, the scenario and the whole red carpet deal, and we're like, Mary-Kate, I love you. Oh right. And I'm making these signs and I'm like, oh my God, I got to touch her shoulder and everything. Then people will be like, holy fuck, these guys are weird.
Yes, they would. And they would be right.
They would be right. They would be, yes.
But somehow.
So this right here.
Yeah.
Women privilege. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can see that women are. I said, at least in this regard, women are kind of granted like it's
granted immunity.
Yeah, like it's okay that they do that. Because I am thinking like if you and I were at like a Katy Perry show and like we're next to stage, like, oh my God, touch your ankle, like it would look weird.
Yes,
for us,
absolutely, it would look crazy weird.
And especially since she is so much younger than us.
Yes,
I don't know how much younger Justin is than Deanna.
I think Justin's like mid-30s, I want to say, isn't he, or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's about right. So he's
okay,
but he's not too much younger. But so let's put her at a. I mean, but you can. I get your point exactly.
You have nothing to say.
No, I don't have anything to say. It is the way that it is.
No, that's fine. And I'm not picking on her. I'm just saying. I mean, I get it, and I totally understand all the scenarios and everything. I'm just saying it's just it's one of those. And my God, I don't mean this to sound weird or whatever, but it is one of those things where people don't realize how sometimes men are discriminated against and don't have the privilege that other people have. It's as simple as that. They just don't. Oh, am I right?
Yeah, I think you're right in some crazy kind of way.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm always right.
That marks the end of this stupid. Shut up. So listen. Hey, wow. We were only able to get through really one topic, and then your secret. Your secret, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambush.
Ambush, yes, ambush for sure.
So
yeah. Okay, I'll wait until Deanna hears this. She's gonna. Oh man,
you may not make it out of the house today. Well, tell you what. Next time, let's go ahead and talk about. Next time, we'll go ahead and talk about somebody's question about why is it more covered with animal abuse than child abuse? We'll see if we think that's even legitimate. So, guys, thanks for listening. Any closing comments, Jeff?
Your wife is a pervert.
Okay, it's fine with me. She's my pervert. So hey guys,
that's the important thing.
Hey everybody. So check in. Don't forget to check us out next week. We'll have a brand new episode talking about more offensive topics. So between now and then, toughen your skin up. It's What's Offensive Weekly.